gonna pin. See, I've learned all these new things about Zoom. You can pin the speaker and all sorts. Anyway, we're not here to talk about Zoom. Okay, so welcome all. So lovely to see you today. So this is a really interesting topic for me because I think I went through a phase of being fascinated about change, and anyone who's been part of my community for a little while will know that I am obsessed with understanding change and how humans experience change, especially women, and especially in the workplace, and how we can better support teams, because change and uncertainty is only increasing in the workplace, and as we've seen over the last year, the world. So it's a really fascinating subject for me, but also from a personal level as a coach, supporting people with a habit changes is often, women are coming to me because they want to break a bad habit, or they don't even know what that habit, that bad habit, that there is a bad habit yet, but they want to make change in some way. So this is a really, really fascinating topic for me. And when I was researching into this and delving into this, which I have done for the last between 5 and 7 years, I found that as both a manager, as a coach, and personally, that there was the most probably underutilized motivator, human motivator for change. I realized what that was. And, the obvious ones come to mind, especially as managers, money, promotions, bonuses, and by all means, these things are important, right? We're highly motivated by money because we're highly motivated to survive. We need money to survive. So in no way am I diminishing the value of, we work for money and we get bonuses and promotions, and those are all very nice. But what is the fundamental thing that sits underneath all of those things? And it's a feeling of progress, right? It's celebrating. So psychologist BJ Fogg has studied what he calls tiny habits for over 20 years. He's a specialist in human behavior, and he found, and I think we can all probably really relate to this, right? He found that adults especially, and I probably attach women onto that from personal experience, but women and adults, we have many ways to tell ourselves, I did a bad job, right? I find myself constantly getting to the end of the day and I'm consumed with all the things that I haven't done. So I look at my list and I get overwhelmed by all those things that I haven't yet done. But we have very few ways of saying, I did a good job, right? And focusing on what we have done. However small those things might have been, we zone in on, uber focus on all those things that we haven't done or the things that went wrong. Now, according to BJ Fogg, this is a big mistake when it comes to motivation and wiring in healthy habits or good habits that we want. So what he shares is that we've been told for years that repetition creates habits, right? Whether it's, I think there are loads of books that say, it takes 21 days to wire a new habit, or 66 days or 108 days. There's so many of them. But actually the research shows that repetition correlates with habits, and it's a very important part of embedding a habit, don't get me wrong. But the research doesn't actually show that it causes the habit to form, okay? What causes the habit to form is emotion, is that feeling of progress, is the celebration that creates that emotion, that good feeling. So the emotion that you feel as you do the behavior or immediately after is the thing that causes the habit to form. So in other words, right, if your brain associates a positive feeling with, I don't know, flossing, right, or taking vitamins or drinking water, if there's a positive emotion associated with it, your brain takes notice. It's a signal to your brain, right? That's how, there's a reason why we have emotions. There's a reason why we have good emotions. And it is a signal to our brain that we want to do it again. Okay, it gives us a dopamine hit. So the biology that's going on in our bodies, it gives us this dopamine hit, which makes us want to do it again and again. And it helps us to remember that we want to do those things again, right? Because they gave us a good feeling. So feeling good is a vital part of behavior change. So when you celebrate, you create a positive feeling inside yourself on demand. Okay, but what we often do is we want a habit change, or we want to change something, or we really, really want something, but all we tend to do is berate ourselves about all the things that we haven't done, all, you know, the failures and the mistakes, and we're absolutely ignoring our natural system for motivation. We're completely ignoring it. And what we're doing is sending our brain the wrong messages, because we're overthinking and ruminating about the things we haven't done, instead of hacking into this natural kind of system, right, for making us feel good and making us feel like we want to do those things over and over again. So you're essentially telling your brain that that's by celebrating, right, by creating that good emotion around a specific habit or something you want to change, whatever that looks like, we're telling our brains that that's what we want, and that we want to keep doing that in the future. So what we want to do is try to create a repertoire of different celebration techniques, right, as a manager and also personally. And we want to practice this model so it becomes automatic, and you don't waste precious time, precious motivating time berating yourself, because that's just a pattern, right? Our negative self-talk, that spiral we get ourselves into, that's simply a shortcut, right? Our brain is shortcutting to that because we've created a pattern, right? This happens, I get stressed, and therefore I have to do this, this, and this. And we either follow a bad pattern, right? So sometimes when I get stressed, all I want to do is pick up the bottle of wine. In all honesty, it happens, but that's a pattern that I've created, right? That when things get stressed, people do it with cigarettes. Stressful situation, you know, the pattern they've created in their brain is stress, I need to have a cigarette, and then that bad habit is just reinforced and reinforced. Okay, so we want to hack into this system because it's really efficient, right? It's a very, very, very efficient system, but we need to tap into it, hack into it with some of these good and healthy habits and reinforcing those. So for those on the Master Change membership, I do have a tool that we will go through, a separate activity. We'll go through this in depth. Anyone who wants to know about the membership, it's just a level up from the free group that we have, and we kind of dig into stuff a bit deeper, and we do some group coaching. So we are opening the doors to that membership soon, and I'll share that in the Managers Tribe. So for those in the membership, we'll cover a simple tool that I have, and you'll get a workbook for this, and we can dig into this in more detail. But essentially, that's the background that you need to understand, right? That's in itself is useful to capitalize on. So this good feeling wires in the new habit into your brain, and in this way, celebration is both a specific technique for behavior change and a psychological framework, a psychological frame shift that we can tap into. It also is vastly underestimated when we're leading others through change. Now, whether this is you as a manager supporting your team through periods of workplace change, whether it's you yourself where change has been kind of thrown on you, or it's a habit change that you are trying to instigate, right? This is a powerful tool, and should not be underestimated. I know that celebrating can often be seen as this really fluffy, you know, added extra thing, but actually the science shows how powerful and necessary it is in terms of making those changes. Okay, so in terms of change, celebrating those small steps of progress during change and uncertainty, when everything's really, really uncertain, it taps into that power of progress, right? What that we know releases the dopamine hit in our body, making us want to repeat those good feelings. So if you're trying to instigate some changes in your team, some behavior changes, this is vital. This is a vital part of encouraging that change. And what we have to do as managers, especially in a change situation, we really have to zone in on what we have control over. Okay, this is an issue that I often see in teams, in organizations, even getting this wrong, kind of focusing on all of those big, massive things or problems that actually the team have very little control over. That is a fast track to overwhelm and burnout. And the same with people. When we focus on really these big things, like, you know, there's a lot of overwhelm around climate change or around the situation right now in the pandemic or whatever that is. But what we need to do is really hone in on what we have control over in relation to those things. Again, as part of the Master Change membership, we're going to be going through this model and really honing in on that, and how you as a manager can kind of help support your team to really hone in on that. And then what you want to do is, once you understand what the team or you have control over, then you break down those micro steps, and you use celebrating and that sense of progress by breaking things down into micro steps to kind of support and reinforce people through change. Okay, what I'm going to do, we're going to have a little chat about this and see how you've used it in your own life, your experience of this, when you have been able to kind of introduce a new habit, and what was it that helped you to do that? And when you haven't been able to do it, what do you think was missing, whether it's celebrating or not, whether it's, you know, whether it's some of the stuff we've talked about here or some other techniques that you've been able to use? How have you been able to either change a habit or support others through change, and what techniques you use, and when hasn't it worked? So